reality forms in a way that there are many problems. It doesn't form in a very good way. It as if the small parts that repeat themselves over and over again to make the bigger version of itself. Everything being a work in progress, repeating itself to become something bigger. How everything became what it was and might become something greater at some point later on. What causes that is missing a lot of things to be better than it is. Within dendritic philononic pylonics, that cannot be perfect, but it can do better. But it doesn't, because some part, there isn't what is required for some part to move the way it would have to then make room for another piece that would repeat this for several other pieces that would allow everything to be where is best for the person, for whatever it is that is forming from these pieces. So you have a lot of problems. And one of those problems, things that cannot form, or I think of a more sophisticated being, that everything is a puzzle. It takes something more sophisticated to solve. That when someone has the complexity or type of complexity that you're missing, and they have the ability to bond to make their essence, your pieces can then have a place to move in where there's still structure to allow pieces to become, to retain that they are alive, not fall apart, but continue to move in a way to help a living thing. It then can move into the place, it then has a place to then get to where it needs to be, and everything else can start moving. But that more complex being then may end up absorbing a lot of the problems. They have to shift their pieces to accommodate this, and perhaps you leave some problem in the process of rejuvenating yourself. I think I put that in the Harley Quinn devotion or ode to video, where it's like Joker uses her to place a lot of his burden, or continue the trust fall of existence, that we fall in ourselves, we lay down this place to pick ourselves back up, and eventually we reach this point where we need more of ourselves to continue, and we don't have any more. And Joker uses Harley Quinn as his tracks. He makes her into more of him so that this can continue. Open the ways behind the nose by bashfulness or being teary-eyed. The force, the heat, the stuffy nose, it forces the ways open that move everything back into that alignment where it is comfortable, where closer to how it might expand, or perhaps incidentally something else where something can return to where it will relieve the headache of disobedience to authority, or perhaps that kind of bad feeling in general, as if it comes from being dry, something is being cut off or drained. Don't leave it unwatered too long. Regardless, that one of the problems that would require this, that could require this more sophisticated being to let us use its existential real estate to move our pieces into, so we can escape or rearrange for the inability in us to have a way to move our own pieces. One of those problems might be structural, or existential problems might be that we are not existentially pure. That there is not enough energy at the beginning, so now there's not enough structures there's enough for a type of complexity to exist, but not very well. And each one is never reaching the point of being enough to be good in what they are. And the only way that beings as complex as us could exist at all is to make this siphonophore, this very loosely bound collection of different types of complex structures, but they're different and they don't work well together, but they do work together. They often counteract each other, and part of that counteracting is they impose some of themselves, they put some of themselves on other parts of them, and perhaps this is why we celebrate, why we find joy in doing something because it's related to the other thing, or why we feel existential waste. We feel waste because there was little food before, but now we also feel waste as if we ourselves are like food, useful organic material, and we don't want to see that go to waste. It's why Klaatu in that remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, he tells the kneeling boy, the universe wastes nothing. That it might waste to see that everything we've done, our feelings, our experiences, that they will have disappeared and that someone could use them. You want to record them, leave them for someone else to use. The idea. That's why you tell someone, I'm going to waste you. I thought of that as a synonym or for killing someone, that I'm going to kill you, that I'm going to waste you. Not only am I going to kill you, but I'm going to take away your ability to be useful after you're dead. I'm going to take away, making it even worse. I'm going to waste your potential to for someone else to benefit from what you had after you can't use it anymore. I'm going to waste you. I'm going to chuck you up. I'm going to turn you into I'm going to put you into a cup and then never drink you. Pour you in a glass and not serving that one up. Nope. Chucking, pouring it down the drain. That's one expensive Chardonnay. And why we want meaning, whereas that we enjoy sophisticated things because we use them to build, and those are important tools. But then we want the same beauty in everything. We cover the natural world in a blanket of luster. We don't want to see the way that nature is. We want those artificial things, and we want reality to work in a similar way, where you see the point, where you can follow the edge from the base to the tip of a spear. You can see how one part is similar to the last and follow it to the conclusion, where it's over and it's okay. You can be satisfied that experience of there being a point is necessary for a feeling to be safe. And then, let's say methamphetamine, as I mentioned in another video, is an unsafe experience because it is not in the form of reality or something in life. And if therefore the greater the feeling, the more structure is required, and perhaps the more like existence and understanding that feeling is, that it feels like the very experience, that the feeling is the knowledge in a way, the better it can be, the more profound, the more meaningful it can be. And then, so now we want nature to work in the same way like our creations, where it's not just good, but how it's good. It's good in a particular way that we identify as beautiful, and that we can trust will yield something good, or at least be interesting or valuable in some way, because that's generally why things are created, that have meaning. They're made for a purpose that must be good, or at least are reasonable, that you can think might be good. Reality doesn't work that way, and it never will work that way. That is psychomagnesia, that the world is like a mind, or like something similar to a mind, like a creation, like something like a dream, or something that is psychic in nature, comes from our consciousness, like the way we think or the way we build, or the structures that come from our imagination, like inventions or dreams. That reality works that way. That is the psychomagnetic property. And irony is false psychomagnesia. when the universe behaves in a way that makes it look like it's doing something, that it's now capable of doing things that you know it isn't. That's when it becomes psychomagnetic, imitating symbolism. It looks like the mortal world is now capable of greater things, that of the specific types of things that will give you a sense of meaning. But it's not, and you know it's not, and that's what makes it irony. Strange. I think hurting people and dominating them gives elite people a sense of meaning, because when people are upsetting you, it feels like the whole world is against you in a way that ordinarily it can't be. Everything you do, somehow it turns out the same way, benefiting them. Your feelings, their feelings, everything, they don't feel pain enough to stop them. You feel more pain to not only stop you, but take away your ability to want to stop them. It takes away, it's as if your ability to retaliate against someone, to do something back to them, it's forced to feel so bad that you have to avoid it, guaranteeing that now if you can't do that, then you can't do anything to them specifically for what they did, forcing you to let them go without any punishment. That really makes me angry. and it makes you feel like the universe is against you, and it must make the dominant people feel like the universe is helping them, that they are the lion's predator blood that gives them everything, makes everything work, or makes a lot work out for them naturally, where everything is natural and feels but the reality doesn't work that way. It's too good to be true. I see exactly how everything how it behaves, how things seem to be so similar. It is exactly that, how things are so similar to what came before it, how it seems that there is not the behavior to deviate from patterns that would suggest that are harmful to us, or that are, it feels like it's repeating itself a lot. And when it does that, it gives this impression that it's not alive, or it's not psychomagnetic. It's very much not on whatever level that our sense of gratification comes from, the level of complexity of our mind. We come from this, we live in this dream. It's like when we need a dream in order to be satisfied, and life is not a dream. Life is Apollo, when I asked Apollo the meaning of life, I think he said to make life a work of art. And then I asked, well, what does that mean for life to be art? How do you do that? And he said that one must be that to make art requires knowledge, but knowledge that comes with grace and ease, that would not wake a dream. It is this dream that keeps the mind and soul, the heart and mind alive, and from which you are doomed to wake, and when it goes, you too shall die. Or something like that. I have it written down. I write so many things down. It kind of seems annoying to spend all that time writing, and then when you want to find something, like, I don't remember where it is. It's like I have to write these things as they come up, so I don't forget them. I can't put them all in an index or something. It's just, that would take more time. It's just, I don't know. Somewhere it's written, I probably won't go looking for it. So. People are always going on about meaning. I think people do this because everyone else does. So, but no matter how much you search or where you go, you're not going to find some great way that the world operates, or understanding of reality that's going to give you this incredible feeling that will satisfy you and make everything exactly the way it has to be to give you your sense of meaning. It's not going to give you meaning. Maybe you'll find, if you like math, maybe you'll find some interesting science facts, but maybe you'll build some machine, but you're not going to get meaning. The reality is never going to be in a way that gives you not only an incredible feeling, but one that has a structure that is like reality, that is like the experience, and that makes it safe and satisfying. That it's as if the good feeling is the knowledge, and that makes it complete, and that makes it perfect, or like enough satisfying. It doesn't, we'll never be satisfied. We're just here. And I don't really think that, I don't think that people, I don't think people really care about meaning. I think they say that because everyone else does. I think people do things because they have to. I don't think anyone wants to be alive. We're forced to be. This is pointless. We all die, and we're going to suffer first, probably, most of us. And we just sit here, we do what we're told, we go to school, we learn what we're told to learn, we do what we're told to do, we support authority, we hate anyone who everyone else hates or has hated in the past, and we follow, and this goes on our entire lives. And me being the victim of this, being ostracized and outcasted, then only to die. What's the point? Why not kill yourself now? It makes no difference. Why put yourself through this just to be less than other people, to be hated? And then even if you weren't, well, what? Do this for 30 years or 40 years and then die? It seems like you might as well just do it. And it's not just that you die. It would be one thing if death came instantaneous. Hermes told me that. Hermes, when I was speaking to Hermes, he told me that well, to live meaning is like a fantasy, to live a dream. He said that being in your world is like watching an entire universe unravel. That is part of that lack of existential purity. That not only are there competing living things, but a lot of us are not living things. That the walk of life is a series of controlled falls, and that a great deal of us, there wasn't even enough living things. You had to fill in a lot of it with, every part of us has destructive, non-living, dying, death dealing qualities that can help life, but also doom us to destruction eventually. And like I know, like there are certain types of people, like Howard Stern or Max Mofo or whoever, um, that, or maybe David Dobrik as well, that they're they celebrate. They are a celebration of the falls, the controlled falls of life. That when death goes up, destruction goes up. Those parts of us that are like destroying life in a shape that imitates life get stronger, and you get certain parts of your life that are like greater. Like that's part of the abyss, how Batman gets into his permanent apotheosis, that as parts of him die, as he becomes close to death, there are parts of you that grow stronger. Joker, you get more strength, or you lose inhibition, or you lose certain things that then unleash things that were kept weak and invisible because they are dangerous over the time that life has existed. If they were allowed to be, let's say, if everyone were a Joker or a Batman, we'd all be dead. Like, we cannot survive like that. Only a little bit can go at a time, and that's why there aren't many people like Batman. Rarely one's body does react to a need for vengeance as a life-threatening situation worthy of severing the ties to self-preservation. And someone can do something like that. And certain people who have that morbid quality to their humor, the things that they do, they are celebrating those things, that the blossoming of the black rose. I think of Mandy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, that she has all these like disturbing qualities, but she's powerful. And so they come from death. And of course she's accompanied by the Grim Reaper. She's like a scion of death. One of those rare people. Maybe she's like a Batman. The pneumonium rod is what I've called it. The existential crucible steel, the emotional support crucible steel that makes the level of commitment, of extremity and mind possible to attain a persona like that. Like Batman, maybe Mandy. Mandy has like, I think, Republican powers. Like she can take over people's minds. I saw it once. She's got like that. I mean, I like to think of it that she's not just a mind controller, turns people into zombies, but she's got, that's supposed to represent like the people who wrote the episode couldn't think of exactly. They don't know how to take authority over people. They're not authority figures. But they're here making the propaganda for authority figures. But to represent that idea that people have real ways of interfering, it's annoying to have someone take your power away, to feel you losing all your power, to get angry, and to make someone stop. They're always saying something, prove it, or something to take away your strength, and you feel it just fade away, and you're crippled, paralyzed, and someone is trying to take away that ability to say, no, I don't like that, and I don't like you. And celebrating those controlled falls in life that make our kind of life possible, because there isn't a better way. However, Hermes said that it's like watching an entire universe unravel. That he said he wouldn't mind being mortal if it meant that you were a stable being that could live forever if there was enough power, but there isn't enough power, and when you burn up all the power, then everything falls apart. He wouldn't mind that mortality, but he would be very disappointed if he lived in a reality like ours, where he can tell by the way everything is moving, repeating, how limited it is, and how it's destructive. It's morbid in its nature. How morbid it is, how that clearly this place is falling apart. It's not it's operating in a way to sustain life, but it's doing so by falling apart. It's unraveling. It's doomed to fall up. It's doomed to fail. It moves by breaking down. Every part of it is operating in a complex way, but it's like breaking down in the shape of life. It's doomed to fail that way. That everything was doomed just by looking at it, that he'd be disappointed in that, to feel like there is no conceivable way that he could live forever. The doom, the futility. Futility has been annoying to me. I'm not sure if I brought up Hermes' hairstyle, but Hermes was telling me how they put ink in in Olympian hair. It had this strange kind of effect to it. It's hard to describe. It almost looked like a pink white. Like, I could have sworn it was pink, but it was hard. Like, I don't know, it kind of looked white. And it had this strange kind of, not greasy, but not cadmium, the Terminator metal, cadmium sulfide. It's in the orange, and all the bright orange in the seats in the subway. Really bright orange or red in general, cadmium sulfide. But what was I thinking? Like tungsten. It's that oil slick rainbow kind of diffuse, but it's not rainbow necessarily. It's this strange kind of concentric ring, tree ring, fractaline kind of metal formation, and it has a little bit of that in the coloring, in the graphic, the sprite, or whatever you want to call it. And he was telling me I was asking him how he did that, and he was telling me how they how they distribute the ink. They manipulate the melanocytes of the body, and so that when it grows, that it distributes this melanin or this ink in a way that the light can't reach a critical mass when it gets to the volume that's lighter, that's more clear. So the opacity keeps the light from shining until the light hits it with a great enough volume to permeate the structure, and then once it gets in, it goes big, and then it gets refracted into the opening in the structure, and then it can get out, and then it shines like in that way. And also how they dendritiphilianize space in order to control the mass inside the hair strands. That helps with the light refraction. They turn mass into space. So they create, like, every little hair has its own pocket dimension. It also allows for Ubertreid Tesahurnacht, which is what I call like 4-dimensional. It also has effects in alternate spatial dimensions, and so they put more energy into the space to create more space just for the hair to have that look. Seed energy to expand. Gods can do that, like Titans. Gods have that ability to continue the primordial expansion endlessly, so they're always, they're just infinite. They can do all those kinds of things to themselves just for their hair. Everything could repeat itself to become something greater, more sophisticated, and smaller things had to repeat themselves to become whatever anything is. And a lot of things in our reality had to collapse and discontinue construction permanently, the work in progress to sacrifice that primordial potential to continue expanding, grow more of the fruit, to become whatever it is, like us. By adding more of the seed energy, you can recontinue it a little bit, but only up until a limit without destroying, burning yourself up. And if you, without mechanisms to return you to, let's say, a primordial state where you're born, that would give you, like when you're gestating or being born, that would give you more opportunity to expand yourself. That's why the things that cause life to change or to become more sophisticated have to happen over generations, because it's the only way to break life back down and return to the primordial state where one. But without better mechanisms like that, there's still a lot of limitation to how much living organic creatures can continue to expand in their complexity and reach the point of a branch where the fruit grow. And the more energy at the beginning, the better the roots, the greater the trunk, the greater and farther the branches. The cosmopolitan, I think I spoke of this before, it's this idea that, say, there are few things that shine a light that are powerful in our reality, and that it is as if, not necessarily that you have, but when these small pieces repeat enough in the branch that becomes whatever you are, that you get like small versions of the fruit, or like the things that would become the fruit, enough of the like small versions of fruit that aren't fruit, but they're similar. They're the things that would repeat to become those things. And it's like you have some of its power, as if you have gone throughout, because they're rare, and again, the universe is pylonic, so space and the valuable things are being dropped along as space is being accumulated. So inherently, as something good is dropped, then more stuff gets piled on top of it, and they're few and far between, and it inherently means that they're hard to find. They're far from each other. And it's as if you have to travel, and since Hermes is the god of travelers, it makes sense that he would be the one to tell me about this, and that you travel, you go throughout, as if you have gone to each of these things and made contact with them, and that they have, by making contact with them, they destroy you in some degree, but in doing so, they imprint their shape or some quality that they have in you, in your essence. And those shapes are that are essential to the formation of the structures, make it possible to form the greatest abilities. It's what gives them their power. And just having that shape gives you some of its power and resistance to its power. So it makes you just superior, the making of a superior being. You have the good stuff, but you're born with it. But it's as if you've gone throughout all these places. It feels like you can go anywhere and be much safer and run rings around everyone else, run circles around everyone else, because you have all these things in you that things collide into each other to become different structures, and you had to collide into these things in order to get those properties that make it possible to then form